Hi, welcome to the Parents Math Tutor. I'm a Texas-based teacher with over 21 years in education, and 18 of those years have been as an elementary school teacher, 3 years in kindergarten and 15 years in second grade. I'm specialized in second grade math curriculum. I built this channel intended for parents wanting to help with their kids' math homework. It's also useful for homeschool families or students that might be learning virtually at home. This channel will give you background information on why math is taught the way it is nowadays, and I will give the parents the tools they need to help their children at home. The videos on this channel will be tailored towards the parents, but I will also offer teaching videos just for your students. Leave a like and subscribe, and let's get into the lesson. Hi parents, welcome back to the next episode of the Parents Math Tutor. We're moving on to comparing numbers, and this video is intended for parents to get background knowledge on how elementary teachers teach the concept of comparing numbers to younger students in elementary school. The TEKS and Common Core standards that these align with for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade are listed on the screen. So if you're looking for a specific standard, if you're a homeschool teacher and you're trying to find help with a specific standard, they're listed there for you. Okay. So the concept of comparing numbers comes after being able to understand place value. So we have to master place value first before we can gain the skill of comparing numbers. So if you're pointing at a tens place and your child still doesn't know that the 3 in a tens place stands for a 30, comparing numbers is going to be very difficult for them. You have to have the foundation of place value before you can move on to comparing different numbers. They will need to be able to identify what is greater and what is less than. So those, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Those are vocabulary words that they will need to be able to use, not just hear. And the idea of comparing numbers starts with concrete objects. Back in kindergarten, they have actual blocks in front of them, and they are identifying which set of blocks has more, or which set of blocks is greater, and which set of blocks has less or fewer. After they can do that with actual blocks in front of them, we move on to the abstract, which includes writing the numbers, writing the symbols, and then matching those symbols to the words that those symbols mean. So let's talk about vocabulary. Vocabulary is something I will talk about in every video because math vocabulary is so expansive. These kids do not use these words in social interactions. So they're only using them when a grown-up is trying to get them to understand math concepts. And so they must be able to hear, know, and use these words efficiently to truly understand comparing numbers. Some of the vocabulary that they will have to hear, understand, and use would be hundreds place, tens place, and ones place. The words greater than, less than, equal to, more and fewer, comparison statement, comparison symbol, and then thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones. They'll have to use all of these words to explain how they know a number is greater or less than another number, because they'll be pointing to the place value they're comparing and telling you how much it's worth. Notice on the anchor charts that are on your screen, none of those include a picture of an alligator. A lot of people like to try to turn the comparing symbol into an illustration of an alligator that is super hungry and eats the bigger number. While this may work for many children, it is a memory trick, and there's no connection between an animal and number sense. So if we want kids to truly understand the value of a digit, using a memory trick like an alligator isn't the best way to get that into their long-term memory. Now, if you have a kid who struggles and struggles and struggles and struggles and nothing else works, you might need a memory trick, because there is a time and a place for those. But I'm going to teach you a way to show your children how to create the symbol that builds upon number sense and not a memory trick in just a minute. Okay, so why does comparing numbers matter? Well, you're moving from concrete, like an actual stack of blocks, to the abstract, which as adults in the world we live in, we work in the abstract. We write numbers, we write symbols, and we expect other people to know what those mean. It helps in developing a strong number sense, because they're, instead of counting a pile of blocks, the numbers are actually visualized in their head, and because they have a good foundation of place value, they understand which is greater and less. These are the first baby steps to getting to harder problem solving. Down the line, kids that are really strong in place value and comparing are really good at logical reasoning. And then just talking about real life applications, we compare numbers all the time as grown-ups. When we're measuring, when we're doing our finances or our budgeting, when we're telling time, when we're telling distances, we are constantly comparing greater and less without even thinking about it. And so by really making sure they learn comparing numbers, we're giving them a step up in life. They'll be better at those things. So I want to talk about how to teach it. So there's some steps that you have to go through. When you give kids two numbers to compare, first you want to look at the largest place value. So we're not looking at the ones place. We would not be looking at this 8 and this 6. We would be looking at this 6, which is actually a 600, and this 8, which is an 800. If those two were equal, we would move to the tens place, but in this case, they're not equal. So we want to say the value of the digit you're comparing. I'm comparing 600 to 800. If I can't do that in my head, if I don't know that 800 is more, I would need to draw a pictorial model and with my eyes see which picture has more flats in it. Then, instead of the alligator, what I teach my students to do is figure out which one is greater, and you're going to draw two dots next to the greater number. So you would draw a dot up here, and I'm going to do it with a pen later, but you draw a dot up here and a dot down here. Oops, because that would be two dots, because 2 is greater than 1. And I would draw one dot next to the smaller number. And then once I have my dots, I can make the symbol. That means 678 is less than 876. And I always want my students to read the comparison statement out loud after they've filled it in with the symbol, to be practicing those vocabulary words. But sometimes we don't give the kids just the standard form to compare. Sometimes we give them a pictorial model. And we don't just want them to compare with a symbol. We want them to be able to match those symbols to the words that the symbols mean. And we want them to be able to use all symbols and words interconnected. So on this screen, what you're going to see is I'm taking two pictorial models, and I would ask my students to compare them two different ways with words and symbols. So the first thing we have to do is figure out what the pictorial model represents. And in this case, I have a 47 on the left and a 69 on the right. So then I already have the picture in front of me. If I'm comparing 40 and 60, in the picture I can see that 69 has more base 10 blocks. It has more rods. It has more tens. And so the answer is that 47 is less than 69. I would have the students write this with words. But then I would ask them how it would change if I put the 69 first. Would it still say is less than? So they have to know that 69 is greater than 47. Now I've compared with words. Next, I'm going to compare with symbols. 47 is less than 69. And 69 is greater than 47. I want to know that these words up here match that symbol. The meaning of this symbol is the words that I wrote, and I want the kids to practice reading them out loud so they're using that vocabulary. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few examples with those dots that I told you about. All right, so I'm going to do a few different examples. I'm going to do some 2-digit numbers, I'm going to do some 3-digit numbers, and I'm going to do some numbers that have thousands so that I can help everybody from kindergarten through 2nd grade. I'm also going to do an example of an equals to comparison statement. And I've specifically chosen some of these numbers because they have misconceptions that sometimes stumble up kids when they get in the pattern of comparing place value digits. So let's start with 33 and 31. I'm going to start by comparing the 30s in the tens place. And to help me, I can draw a pictorial model so I can see that those are the same. And then I know I need to move next door to the ones place, which means I'm comparing a 3 and a 1. I'm going to put 2 dots next to the 3 and 1 dot next to the 1 and connect them to make a greater than symbol. Let's move to 407 and 417. 400 is equal, so I need to move next door to the tens place. I have 0 tens and 1 10. That means I need to put 2 dots next to 417 because it's a bigger number, and 1 dot next to 407 to make a less than sign. Okay, now this next example is a misconception because one of my numbers has a thousands place, a hundreds place, a tens place, and a ones place. The other number doesn't have 1,000, and so some kids would compare 1,000 to 900, but really you need to know that there's 0 thousands in 989. So I would put 2 dots next to the 1,000 and 1 next to the 900 to make the greater than symbol. Okay, the next example is just 2 numbers with similar digits. So I'm going to draw the 200 and the 100 with flats to see which one is bigger. And I'm going to put 2 dots next to the first number and 1 dot next to the second number to make a greater than symbol. All right, now what if I have 433 and 433? Well, the 400s are equal. The 30s are equal. And the 3s are equal. And so in this case, I need to know that this symbol means equal to, and that means the same on both sides. And this is how I would write it with words. 433 is equal to 433. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please leave a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and maybe it'll help other parents help their children with their math homework. We'll see you next time.